All right, I think we can start. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, from wherever you are. Welcome to the EU Desk Curacao Funds Week. I am Shivani Ragni. I'll be your host for the session. Thank you for joining us on this very special occasion, celebrating 5 years of EU Desk Curacao. I hope you've enjoyed the other webinars as well, and you've been enjoying our guest speakers from today, from yesterday, and also I encourage you to attend the webinars for the following days. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping rules. This event will be recorded and will be uploaded on several social media platforms, so be aware of that. You can, if you have any questions, you can make use of the Q&A chat box down below to ask your questions, and at the end of the presentation of our guest speaker, we will go through them. As I said, I encourage you to look for the other speakers as well. They have a lot of very exciting information to share. For our next guest speakers, I would like to introduce Milangelo Maduro and David Tjong-Ajong, who will be sharing insights on transferring tech skills and how the diaspora can help. On behalf of Foundation IT for Curacao, knowledge transfer dynamics in the tech sector, which aligns perfectly with our creative skills topic. So without further ado, the digital floor is yours.
Thank you, Shivani. Well, yeah, thanks for the invite. It's been great getting this spot to share a bit of what IT Curacao has been doing the last couple of years, and also what we have achieved so far, and definitely wanted to pick your brains today also in how we see how we can help, but curious to find out also what your ideas are in that sense. But let's start at the beginning by introducing ourselves. So who are we actually? So me, myself, I'm Milangelo Maduro. I've been in the Netherlands for quite some time, did some studies in the Netherlands on BA and so business administration and a master in business information management, and started working at Gemini, and I've been working there for nearly 11 years. At this moment, I'm a principal consultant, also responsible for our consumer products, retail, and agriculture sectors. And I've worked with numerous clients, more than that's on this slide, but just to give you a brief view on that. And the way I work with our clients is that I build connections, basically. I build connections, and through those connections, I bring change to them. So I'll say whatever organization needs to do in terms of really working a different way, really transforming themselves, I'm there to help. And that is who I am in the core also. Dave, can you tell us a bit about you?
Sure. Well, first of all, welcome to everyone. And Shivani, thanks for having us. I'm David Tjong-Ajong, born and raised in Curacao and currently living in the Netherlands. My function is tech lead, which means that I, apart from leading a team of developers where we build software for an insurance company, I also align the business needs with the software that needs to be built. Been in IT for quite a while already, probably around 16 years already. Started as a developer and climbed my way up to being a tech lead, where I'm more in the role of leadership and less hands-on with code day by day. So currently I'm working at Schoutenzekerheid, which is an insurance broker, but I've worked for multiple companies related to Curacao, like Engrain and Business One, and also one of the bigger organizations in Holland which is ANWB, which is the roadside assistance service from Holland. So that's about me, but we're here in front of you as IT for Curacao. So who are we, IT for Curacao? First of all, we are a group of volunteers. Since we are a non-profit organization, we are all volunteers who have a big heart for Curacao and anything related to Curacao and related to IT. We're For the most of us, we are either very passionate about IT, or we actually are involved in our career within IT field. So that's about us. We have a few missions as an organizations, which I would like to ask Milangelo to elaborate on that.
Yeah, so as ID of Curacao, as it's stated here, we are actually a community of, say, people who are driven and passionate about the IT sector to start with, but also especially driven to develop the IT sector in Curacao. So really develop the IT ecosystem like right here. And that consists of numerous parts or dimensions, but from which at least working on creating opportunity is one of the key ones, and the other one making our economy as such future-proof. I mean, we have been discussing this the last couple of years also. We have seen the political decisions being made in this space, also naming the IT sector as one of the key pillar of growth for the island next to the tourism sector. So we were very happy when we hear that as an organization also. So at least we're aligned in that perspective. But why is this important? More than ever, Curacao needs you to care, us to care as such. We know that from a diaspora perspective, there's a lot of knowledge and experience from this side. Starting IT from Curacao came from the idea and the need and the passion, the fire to do more also from the island, because even though we're not there on a daily basis, our hearts are there constantly. We saw also that the digital age really presents a tremendous opportunity for IT export. I mean, if you look at the backbone close to our island or goes across our island, there is definitely a way to leverage that, but also the fact that we have people with different skills culturally, but also if you look at our language aspect, but if you look at our creativity, if you look at the skill set that we have, that there's much more to do when we combine that with digital skills in that sense. And also there are quite some upcoming companies also on the island, proven companies. But also as a professional, we see that the digital industry can really be the part of the much needed change that we need as a society, really propelling efficiency, propelling new ways of thinking, bringing in innovation. If we look at the public administration, for instance, fine-tuning process, but at the end, improve the experience for our citizens, improve the experience of our customers locally, but also make sure that these experiences are also used across sectors at the end of the day. But challenges are not limited by who we are today, but inspired by who we can be tomorrow. And this is essentially one of the key parts of also how we see IT for Curacao. So it's easy to think about what is not possible, how many challenges there are. We can talk about internet connectivity. We can talk about a skill set that might not be there yet, but what can we do with what we are and what we have today? So that really propelled us to really work on this foundation. And Ian van Eenam, who cannot be present today, the main founder, and also our chairman, sorry. He reached out to all of us, handpicked, and said, "Hey guys, I have this idea. It's crazy, but what do you think?" And all of us immediately said, "Yes, let's go for it," because we were also thinking about doing something like this. We were also looking for people like-minded who wanted to do something in return to the island, for the island. But what have we done so far? That's the key question, and maybe Dave, you can take us along that.
Certainly, certainly. Well, first of all, IT for Curacao does not exist for that long yet. We were founded in 2022, where the exact moment what Milangelo just explained, when I approached multiple of the volunteers and asked us to join. That's when we basically started in 2022. For the past 2 years we have done quite a lot. So let's start in 2022. What did we do? In 2022 we started with the IT Academy Full Stack Developer program. being an organization that focuses on transferring skills and the technical skills, this was our first initiative to start doing that. So what we basically did is we set up an online program for locals in Curacao to voluntarily take a part in a program where during 6 to 8 months they were able to follow an online course to become a full stack developer. This accompanied with multiple coaching and mentoring sessions from within an IT for Curacao members, adding soft skills, communication skills, how to make your portfolio, how to present yourself on LinkedIn. So apart from the hard skills, the technical skills, we also provided an array of sessions where they could learn soft skills. So basically, we started with six participants. I must say it wasn't easy for them. It wasn't easy for us, since it was the first time. There was a lot of learning occur for us, a lot of trial and errors for us. But we can say that this month, the first or the only participant standing finished the program successfully and got his certificate, and right now is a certified full stack developer. So even though it was the first time and we had to do a lot of learning, we can still say it was a big success because at least one of the participants finished the course successfully. So that was August 2022 that we kicked off. But we didn't stop there. In March 2022, we organized the Beyond Code conference where multiple people from multiple fields were allowed to join us, where we had a conference of where we talked about multiple ways of entering the IT field as a non-ITer with a non-IT background, but also we told our own story of how we got into IT, and each one of us had a different story, which was a great success. We had the opportunity to do this in Casti Corsau in The Hague, also a big success. And again, we didn't stop there. We moved on to the next event. In September 2023, me personally I was personally invited to speak at the Curacao Tech meetups, where I was able to present the 3 non-tech roles within IT during a session, which was also a very great success. It was a great success. It was a great experience for me, but also a great experience for the participants, as we did role play into getting to know these non-technical roles within IT. Again, sharing technical skills and knowledge. In that same week for the tech conference, we also organized a youth programming masterclass where 20 youth, young people were allowed to take part in a programming masterclass where during 6 hours they learned how to program their own weather app, which can predict the weather based on API calls. This was a great success as well, since we had various ages, from various backgrounds, boys, girls, young, old, but we did have an age gap. We started with the youngest 13 years old, and the oldest was 18 years old. So really focused on the youth and trying to inspire youth into getting into IT and programming. So another success to our list. As we continue the year, we had another great event together with Ngrain, which are based in Amsterdam. We had a Unite, Engaged, and Shape open mic session where we were allowed to present various scenarios where we could basically help to develop an IT ecosystem in Curacao, and where we had a very great how can you say debate and panel with all the participants, and once again a night where we could share our knowledge within the diaspora. And so here we are today, our last and latest event we're taking part in, but we're not stopping here. There's a lot more to come. So I invite you today to take part in this session. If you have any questions or any remarks, are they able to do or to express that, Shivani?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so please do so. If you have any questions, just stop us, or if you would like to add, go ahead. Let's keep it interactive, and I would say let's go.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. And maybe just to add to that, if you look at what we have done so far, I think it's together with the community, new ideas arising, us helping the community come together, but also when it comes down to really propelling the IT space into another level, it is engaging with the youngsters, but also looking at the people who are already there in the market, maybe in another sector, and get them enticed to join the IT sector in that sense. So it was very nice to see and interact with the diaspora also in the Netherlands to see, okay, what value can we add as such to the island, but also what do they need in terms of getting into the IT sector or perhaps going back to the island or contributing to the island. And it is insane to see the amount of energy that comes from the diaspora also. So one of the topics, and this actually builds upon our last session when it comes down to what we can do from here or how can we collaborate with the island. Of course, we're here remote today, so that's part of it. And that's basically through remote working, connecting Curacao and the Dutch IT markets. And what we want to do is we want to walk you through some scenarios. So three first scenarios that we see is remote employees. And in the first step, you see that you would have an IT professional in Curacao working through a payroll service for a client in the Netherlands. And this way you see that they will be directly exposed to the Dutch market, working for Dutch clients and so on. By the way, we'll come back with a specific, I would say, analysis on the difference in or some of the scenarios in the second part of this presentation. The second scenario is where there's an IT professional working through a payroll service, works for an intermediary in the Netherlands, and then the Dutch intermediary basically has then a connection with the Dutch clients in that sense. And a third scenario where an IT professional works for an employer in Curacao, or on Curacao, I should say. And this employer has a connection with a Dutch intermediary, which makes sure that the funnel of work comes in. And again, there's a backlog of clients at the other side. So here are, I would say, three models or ways where you can at least make sure that if it's in terms of opportunities in the Netherlands, the IT professional on the island can get that link and can the amount of work necessary at least to build a living and to gather professional proficiency and experience throughout the years. Did you want to add something to that, Dave?
No, certainly. That's very correct. Let's go to the next one. Okay. So basically, those were if you were working remote. And the reason why we did this basically is that the thought behind this is we were brainstorming on how could this work. So in which scenarios could we be able to have IT professionals either from the diaspora or living IT professionals living on the island actually take part in the Dutch IT sector. So basically with that in mind, these scenarios and models came to life. And the remote independent contractor setup is where local living on the island could work directly for a client company, meaning that he would have to look for the gigs or the jobs himself and try to connect with a Dutch company, which could have its challenges for sure. But that would be the most direct one, and probably one of the most difficult to achieve, since there are no real connections in between the market and the Dutch companies, very direct. So we continued on thinking, what other ways could it work? So if you put an entity in between the remote independent contractor and the client, you could have it on two sides. You could have either an intermediary in the Netherlands, located in the Netherlands, which actually is the connection, makes a connection in between the client and the IT professionals, and make sure that to translate the client's company wishes to the IT professional and the IT professional to the client. But you could also have it the other way around, where Dutch company could be based within Curacao and basically be the connection in between the IT professional and the client company. So these are the setups for possible remote independent contractor setup. Again, with in mind, how can we transfer the skills as efficiently possible? So if we bring these three models together, these 6 models together, you get actually quite a few options. As I mentioned already, each one has their advantages and each one has its disadvantages. We did focus on which one is most convenient for transferring knowledge, but also which one has the most advantages for the local market on Curacao, meaning for the IT professional himself, but also for the local Curacao economy, meaning preferably as least of the piece of the pie to remain in the Netherlands, and most of the pie remain in the island, either for the intermediary or for the IT professional. So doing that analysis has brought us to 2 most convenient scenarios. So that is scenario 3 and scenario 6. Why? So number 3 is basically because having a local a company and an IT professional employed by a local company really makes it a lot easier for the local IT professional, less how do you say it, bureaucracy that needs to be arranged, a lot easier for him to just deal with his local employer instead of dealing with an overseas company. And also for the island, there's more money going towards the economy of the island. And in setup 6 is very great as well. Why? Because the moment a foreign company or the company from Holland opens a dependance on the island, you immediately already get a lot of knowledge sharing from the Dutch company that are being settled in on the island. So these 2 are the 2 scenarios that we would like to discover with you guys today, and see what the strengths, the weaknesses, and the opportunities. But before we do that, we have 2 more scenarios for you, which Milangelo will enlighten you on.
Let's see if the orders is right, Dave.
Yeah.
I'll just skip.
Oh, no, those are coming. Yeah.
Yes, I'll skip those. And 2 extra scenarios are actually scenarios where the diaspora. So if you look, if you pay attention, the Netherlands is now on the left side and Curacao is now on the right side, is a scenario 7 and 8, where the diaspora in scenario 7 acts as an IT professional, works for an employer in the Netherlands, and there's an intermediary company in Curacao. And then you have actually clients in Curacao. And why did we come up with this scenario and also scenario 8? Is because what we understood also based on our interactions with companies on the island, there's also a skill gap, which is limiting the local IT sector of really going to the next level and really propelling the growth. So rather than finding, I would say, human capacity in the US, Panama or region or whatever, you have the diaspora in the Netherlands who can still help the local companies grow and fill in that gap of this, the skill gap that is at this moment present. And what we see is because we are from the island, or because the diaspora is from the island, you can also understand crucially what the need is. You already know the language, you know the way of working to a certain extent. course, if you've been from home quite long, it's of course getting adjusted to it. But a key strength is that you'll understand what it means to be a Judy Curaçao and how to interact with people locally. And on the other hand, also that when it comes down to skill transfer, it's also showing, hey, you could also be doing this. I'm here doing it already. And it's easier to help and support each other, like we also experienced during the pilot that we had for helping people become full stack developers. What we see there as a weakness is, of course, the limited physical presence. On the other hand, hey, we're also doing this remotely. Still, I cannot see you in this session, but I can imagine that if everybody has constantly their camera on, if you have been visiting the island once in a while, you can at least build that relationship and still, I would say, manage that weakness. On the other hand, what we also see as a potential barrier is the way of working. Of course, like I just said, you get used to working in the Netherlands. Curaçao might have another speed, another way of working. I think there's also where communications or strengths will help us, I would say, mitigate or annihilate or remove that weakness. What we do see as a huge challenge is the regulatory challenges. And maybe you can add to that, Dave, because I know that you also face some challenges when it comes down to regulations.
Yeah. So basically, it starts already with where do I need to be registered with my company working for Curaçao. You could be subscribed in Holland and working for Curaçao, but you could also be subscribed in Curaçao as a foreigner. The next challenge is the part of invoicing. So which tax bracket do I need to use? Where do I pay taxes? When do I need to pay taxes? The next part is your insurance. So let's say if I make a mistake and the company I'm working for has financial damage due to my mistake that I make, how am I covered for it? Or am I covered personally or business wise? So those are a few challenges, some of the few challenges that you already can encounter when you start doing this, how to properly arrange that. So yeah, it is not easy when it comes to regulatory challenges, and you cannot just find it easily online either to know where to go and how to deal with them.
Yeah. And at the other hand, of course, there's still opportunities. So like I just said, the diaspora can help, really can play a pivot role in bridging skill gaps in the IT industry. So really give it a boost. International collaboration is also an important one, because it's really knowing that you're not alone. It's really collaborating with the Dutch market, but also the diaspora that are outside of the Netherlands. I mean, we're worldwide, I always say. So also when it comes down to bringing that knowledge, bring also the network to the island. Dave has worked for quite some companies. I have worked for quite some companies. And by the way, the rest of the diaspora has also worked for many companies. I always take it as example the fact that I think the company Blue Jet, if I'm correct, started flying from Curaçao. That was because of diaspora was contacted, and then that connection was made. So we can do the same thing in the IT sector, I would say. When it comes down to the threat, well, dependency of diaspora, of course, there at a certain point, of course, we need to find a way to make the local knowledge and the local IT sector robust enough to be able to operate independently and not solely reliant on having a connection with the diaspora. No, if we build those connections, it should finally also be local connections, which then can also be used to further expand and grow that market. A threat is, of course, market competition. If you're talking about bringing the diaspora knowledge in, of course, there's I would say international IT market also. So how can you make it interesting for the diaspora to help? Of course, share of heart is quite big in helping Curaçao, but also like Dave explained, making sure that's easy to help, hence removing or easing the regulatory part of it could really help and support that in that sense and make it more interesting for them to step in. And Dave, let's just go back to look at the SWOT
Yeah.
analysis from scenario 3 and 4. Can you take us along?
Certainly. So this is the scenario 3, is where an IT professional would be working for a local employer. One of the strengths there that already starts there is a local presence. There's a local company that is basically guiding the IT professional, which is already very great for an IT professional having proper guidance, especially when the skills are not up to par yet, and there's still a lot of growing, a lot of guidance needed. Then it's great if you have a local company which you can rely on. Being employed by a local company also gives more certainty, because you are employed. You are not a contractor. You are almost certain that every end of the month your salary will be paid. So that's a great benefit. But also cost efficiency. Cost efficient in what way? Cost efficient because as a developer, you won't be making a lot of cost by managing all your administration, managing all the communication. You have your employer, which you can communicate with, and everything is basically mostly done for you. But also cultural alignment, because if you have a local employer, they understand the culture better. And let's say we from the islands have a specific culture, especially if you compare it to the Dutch culture. And having an employer that really understands the culture better, especially around the period of Carnival, that you might be a little less efficient during the working hours, that there be more understanding for. Or if there are holidays that are not part of the Dutch holidays, that is being understood by the employer. So cultural alignment is very important as well, because we don't want to lose our culture while developing an IT career. However, there are some weaknesses, of course. Distance and communication. While as soon as you have multiple, how do you say, schakels within a chain, there's a more room for error within the communication, meaning whatever the client communicates will be translated multiple times before it actually reaches the IT developer. There's a threat. That's a weakness, because it takes time also before it actually arrives to the IT professional. And of course, one of the most logical challenges is time zone difference. But it is not only a weakness, at the same time, it can also be a strength, because while the Dutch office or the Dutch working day ends, the working day of Curacao will continue, meaning that a company could actually have more activity done during a day. So even though it could be a weakness, at the same time, it's also a strength, right? So if we look at this model and we look at the opportunities, with this model, you get access to Dutch clients with Dutch standards, requiring Dutch technology, which will set the bar really high for the local developers, meaning that they will have to really work hard and to level up their game. Uh, what what comes to skill enhancement, so they will have to improve their skills, and also the possibility of follow the sun support. So meaning that not only diaspora and local IT professionals could work on the island, but also Dutch developers who might be willing to live in Curacao for a year and work for the same Dutch companies that they are used to working here in Holland for. This is still possible. Meaning again that experienced developers from Holland, not only diaspora, will or have the opportunity to go to the island and again share their knowledge with the local IT professionals. So those are the opportunities we see, but like each model, it also has its threats, right? Dependency on intermediary. So let's say the intermediary, for some reason, did not manage their business well and goes bankrupt, or let's not be so negative and be a little bit more positive, or they are currently on vacation, but you need to get an answer from the client's company, you're still dependent on the intermediary company to get your answer. So that could basically slow down stuff. And also market fluctuation is also a threat. So basically, you as an employer, but also the IT professional, don't always have a clear sight on what's happening on the client side, meaning that sometimes stuff can go very unexpected on the other end of the line. So those are some threats we identify within this model. Yet we do think it's very attractive, since not only the IT professional might benefit from this model, but also a local company with their own employees, again, could benefit from this model. So it's a very strong model where you have multiple chains, how do you say, connections in the chain, but also very rugged. It's very strong and robust. So those are that's the SWOT analysis on this model.
And I think a great thing about this model, Dave, is the fact that next to having that flow of, I would say, external projects, also locally based on the skills that you get by working with this international clients, you can also apply them locally to leverage them and to help the local companies or the local sector again achieve that next level in maturity again. So yeah, I also like this model a lot. I'm curious to know whether the audience likes this model, and of course we'll get back to the diaspora model later on. But curious to know whether there's some interaction in the chat or not.
There are no questions just yet.
Alrighty, feel free to.
Okay, let's try something, Milangelo. Type 1 if you like this model or you think it could work.
Good one.
Give us a 1.
Let's see if something comes in.
Or a 0 if you don't. Huh? In IT, you work with ones and zeros.
Yeah, right. 0 if you don't think it could work. A 1 if you think it could work. I see Zahir says a 1. Dayhana says a 1. Milangela also a 1.
Also, there's a Milangela also in the call. Nice.
Okay, great. I think let's go to the next scenario where we do the SWOT analysis of the next scenario, Milangelo. Yes. Let's do that.
There you go.
So in this scenario, we have less connections in the chain. This would mean that let me put this example. So imagine you have the very well known bank in Holland, ING, the orange one, would open an office in Curacao solely to do their IT development. Which will also be completely run by ING with all the ING standards, with all their knowledge, and they would open an office in Curacao and hire developers within the island, meaning locally a diaspora who want to work remote for that company, or Dutch developers who want to go live for a year or two on the island and still work for a Dutch company. That would be an example for this scenario. Which is very attractive because it has a lot of strengths. So local expertise, we will be developing local expertise, since this Dutch run a company that's run by a Dutch entity with all their knowledge being on the island will create a knowledge sharing, not only on the IT side but also on the running a business and working for a company. It also has cost advantages both ways, because this company, this dependance we call it, will have to pay taxes on the island, which is again an advantage for the island, but also an advantage for the company itself because it can work, it can still do the same work at a more attractive rate and at lower tax rates being on the island. So for both parts, it's very attractive on the cost side. But of course, there are also weaknesses. Limited market exposure is certainly a weakness, but also regulatory differences, meaning that for a Dutch company based on the island, there are complete there are the regulations are very different or could be very different on various aspects, meaning that it's extra difficult for a company to open an office on the island with all the regulatory rules and the laws and everything to get it up and running. So that could be a challenge. For on the opportunity side, we see expansions into the Dutch market, meaning that we, as developers locally from the island, could expand into the Dutch market. We start to get experience through this intermediary company, and tomorrow working directly with these type of companies in the Netherlands, but also collaboration potential, meaning that the Dutch company located in the island could also start working with local companies, sharing knowledge again, and also boosting the economy towards partnerships with local companies. Just like each other model, there are also threats, of course. Competition from Dutch companies, meaning that the local companies on the island will get competition. For example, let's say this Dutch company has the financial power to pay the local developers a lot more than the local companies are able to. It will attract all the developers towards this company, meaning that the local companies will lose their developers and will have to start paying a lot more for the developers. Not because, and they are not willing to do that because they don't want to spend the money, but because the local market does not allow them to pay the same amount that a Dutch company is able to pay because the Dutch company, of course, makes euros. What you can also get is cultural misalignment. Now, this can be very easy. We already know the Dutch culture is very straightforward and very business minded and very punctual. And we on the island like to take it a little bit more light and we like to enjoy life a little bit more. Those two cultures can clash very easy, and that's very stereotypical example. But a less stereotypical example is that, for example, we on the island are less inclined to have a lot of meetings, and Dutch people are very well known for their meetings and really involve everybody in thinking before we take a decision. So those are a few examples where where a misalignment could go sideways, but I also think there still could be a strength where we could actually align our cultures more towards the Dutch a way of doing stuff without losing ourselves, but be more punctual and be more straight and more business minded when it comes to work. So that's my analysis of this scenario, which I also think is very strong since there is a very strong presence of a foreign a knowledge base, which we would have to develop ourselves, which can take many years, and where all of a sudden there's a Dutch company which can actually share that knowledge within a short time, and we can start benefiting from that. And of course, I want to ask you guys, what do you guys think about this model? If you like it, press 1. If you don't like it at all, let's go for a 0. And if you like this one more than option 3, then type a 6.
We're making it a bit more complex with a 6, Dave.
Okay.
I see a 0, a 0, a 6 coming in.
Okay.
006.
0. Okay. Would one of the people who voted a 0, would you like to give a brief argument why you think why your opinion is on 0?
Well, I see that Arancha.
Yeah. She already gave sounds like there is also a big opportunity to teach the Dutch about our culture, which explains that it isn't less. They can learn from our, for sure. I think
100.
it's apart from transferring tech skills. I think there's a very big benefit also in exchanging cultural values, for sure.
Especially being less, I would say, stressful. I
Yeah,
would say in terms of the Dutch, being more relaxed rather than running around, pulling out fires. And I must
yeah,
say that every time I go to the island, it's like, hey, it takes me time to kind of ease and say, you know
yeah,
what, I'm back on the island, enjoy it.
yeah,
Because I think that is the value of our people also, to bring the calmness into a situation.
yeah,
At least that is why they ask me to join projects that are going sideways, because of the calmness, because I'm like, hey guys, it's just work at the end of the day, right?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
uh, and bring that positivity. So definitely there's there's an interchangeability between the two cultures, and both can learn from each other in that sense.
yeah.
100% agree. Yeah.
But I really like your point of view, Arancha,
Yeah.
that it's not only one way, it's two ways. And like I just said, I think this is a this is a scenario where both sides can benefit the most from.
And what I also see, Dave, is if we look at language, the fact that from a diaspora perspective, we are able to speak multiple languages, that also helps the Dutch
Yeah,
companies with opening new markets. I mean,
yeah,
I switched from Dutch to English to Spanish, to understand a bit of Portuguese. So that helps you also build those relationships
yeah,
also beyond the Netherlands,
yeah, yeah,
across the world internationally in that sense.
yeah, for sure. That's super valuable.
Yeah.
Good.
Shall we take a look at, do a deep dive on 7 and 8? What curious to find out how people think about those scenarios. Have some echo in the background. Is it gone? It's coming from you, Dave. Try again. It has been solved. Awesome. Yes. Yeah, so we previously discussed 7 and 8, and let's go a bit deeper also on these two. So to do our quick recap, scenario 7, you would have an IT professional in the Netherlands working for a Dutch employer. And then this Dutch employer would have, I would say, sister company on the island, functioning as an intermediary, or it could also be another type of intermediary, kind of a work aggregator, and then working for local companies. And that can be an IT company, but that can also be another company that just requires IT knowledge, let's say to bring in a new system, to do an upgrade. Perhaps it can be the local government or local government agencies who need that extra support. Where I discussed the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in that sense. I think to summarize, an opportunity was basically to bridge the skill gap in that sense, to really bring us to par from a local perspective. How do you see this one in terms of scoring? Do you think this can work? 1, do you think this will not work? 0, or Dave, what other number do you want to give to the other scenarios? You're on mute now, Dave. Still on mute. Let's give Dave a sec. It's IT, huh? can try to read your lips. So what are you saying? No clue. So perhaps let's just focus on 7. So do you think it could work 1, or do you think this will not work 0? Scenario 7 specifically, and perhaps also the argument of why you think this could work or not.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, good.
It's back.
Good point. 1, as long as the skills is actually transferred to.
Good one. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So that means it should be part of a bigger plan, right? So if we're talking a project, maybe being shadowed by a local professional, and then step by step doing the knowledge transfer, and also I would say the responsibility transfer to, I would say, the local professional in that sense.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah.
Okay, I see Milangelo says twijfel, lange weg. Well, in Dutch they say goede dingen duren lang. So the good things take long time. No, but all joking aside, I think there is no quick way of doing this. If you want something as great as this, it's gonna take long. But what is long, and if it's 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, I say that's still very quick. But if we're talking about something that can be achieved in 10 years, then that's too long. We cannot wait 10 years to be there. In 10 years, the IT sector will be so much further. And if we're still setting up the infrastructure and the how do you say it? The ecosystem, then we are too late. But I think if within 2 to 5 years, this could be up and running, we're still on time, if you ask me.
I agree with that,
Yes.
Dave.
Yeah. Yes, not just having someone come and leave again. Good point. Good point.
Yeah, good point. So they should move, basically. Also a point of discussion, right?
Yeah, and I think there's one key in that is you should expect everyone that comes to leave one day. So how do we make sure that they don't leave without leaving anything behind for us?
Yeah.
And that means either skills or infrastructure or the ecosystem. Because at one point, the ecosystem needs to be less dependent of the people involved within the ecosystem or individuals within the ecosystem. Because once the ecosystem is thriving, each individual is not, the ecosystem is not depending on individuals anymore, but as a whole. And that's something we should try to achieve, where if one employer decides to leave the island, they had enough and they had all their tax advantages and all their financial advantages, they are ready to leave, that we are not left empty-handed, as this the same way has happened in the past with multiple companies leaving the island and not. So the task of sharing knowledge is not only the person bringing the knowledge, but also the person acquiring the knowledge. So if the knowledge is in front of you and it's not given to you, you still have the task to take it. And that's what's also important. Then that's our task, or the local IT professional, their task to take that knowledge and acquire it.
I think in that sense, when we're talking about ecosystems, Dave, we should be talking about a resilient ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
Which is which can support itself, like you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good point. So if we look at scenario 8, it's a bit more, I would say, straightforward, especially for the people who are working as independent consultants. So we'd have an IT professional working through a Dutch intermediary and then working for a local company in Curacao or on Curacao. I think when it comes down to strengths and weaknesses, for the IT professional, this one gives you more of the feeling like being an independent contractor. Huh? At least you'll have more share of wallet, as mostly of many times experience gives you a bit more flexibility in that sense also. But I'm curious to know whether the audience thinks this is something that could work. Again, 0 doesn't work, 1 works, and also eager to know what the arguments in that sense would be, and perhaps also in relation to 7. If you think 7 is better than 8, put also 7 in the chat. I don't see anything, so you guys need to
No
help
comments so
here.
far?
Maybe this one is a bit difficult, huh? Maybe they're like, hey, both can work. If you think both can work, what is the number then, Dave?
7 plus 8.
Equal.
7 plus 8.
So 15.
15, yeah.
Okay.
Arancha says 1, but I find it difficult to understand the difference.
Yeah. So that's a good point. So in scenario 7, it would be me working for a Dutch company, for instance, and that Dutch company again having a local entity, and then based on what the local market needs, I might be involved in that project on the island. In scenario 8, it's about me directly working with an intermediary. Let's say I'm a freelancer, and that intermediary basically is in contact with local companies and says, hey, you know what, at this moment I need a business analyst, which is my role, or I need a tech, I need a developer, or I need a SAP consultant, basically. And based on that, the intermediary tries to find the right person to help the local company. So in that sense, the difference is an intermediary really going and finding their jobs on the local market and then bringing it into a pool of, I would say, freelancers. And in 7 is me already working, for instance, for a consultancy company, this consultancy company getting a project on the island and telling me, hey, Milangelo, we need you to work on this project on the island specifically because they have a working relationship and they won that deal, basically. So one is more loose, I would say, than the other. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So Milangela says 7 plus 8. Gewoon specifiek iemand of meerdere voor buitenlandse zaken debiteuren zetten, gaat het werken. Great. Good point.
Okay. Good to hear. Yeah.
And Arantxa says 15 then. Depends on the situation, really. Yeah. It's mostly a personal preference with which you would prefer.
And I think it also depends on the need on the island, basically, right? So if it's only a single specialized skill that you need in a specific moment in time, I think a freelancer can work perfectly. If you're talking about running a project in which you conclude that you need multiple people and also you need experience with doing similar projects, it might be interesting to go for 7, because then you can accelerate based on the knowledge and experience of this company who have done it before and who can take care of, I would say, the staffing, the risks, but also many times the part of knowledge transfer is embedded into the project also. So there is also kind of, I would say, different nuances to it, but indeed, specifically on, depends on the specific ask. I see that we are nearly there. And if we look at, we want to close with this statement. We know that what is the most important is actually the infrastructure to deliver it, the value. And that actually extends beyond the technology, as you could hear right now, also in the strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis. And also based on events that we have done, we've seen that it's not only about tech, it's about the business models, the processes, the skills, knowledge and experience, boldness, and genuine relationships. It's also the diaspora finding the local market, and not only companies but people in that sense, and building a resilient ecosystem. And for that we need also trust and cooperation. And rather than thinking about whether company A or B or C or organization Z should be winning, we should be looking at as IT on the island of Curacao winning in that sense. And if we all have that common vision and mission as such, the future looks very bright. When it comes down to joining this mission, if you would like also to think along with IT for Curacao, just please follow us on LinkedIn, send us a message, so you'll stay updated on meetings, events, etc. We have brainstorming sessions. So we invite you all to join this, and we're again very happy to have joined this webinar. And I think this is a very good step towards a bright future in that sense. So thanks you also to the organization of the EU Funds Week. We really appreciate this, and this really excites us to be part of this. Dave?
Thank you guys for your attendance. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. Thank you, Shivani, for having us.
Thank you, Milangelo and David, for your insightful presentation. Also, thank you to the attendees for joining us. I hope the attendees and you guys will get connected eventually, because it sounds very interesting what you guys have been doing. I do have a question for you. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the NES, the National Expert Strategy from Mayo.
Yes.
Yeah.
And within that, you've touched upon the skill development and the skill gap that that Curacao has been experiencing. Could you tell us a little bit more about what IT for Curacao can do in order to narrow that gap, and what the IT industry or the work field nowadays experiences when it comes to the skill gap and the development of those skills?
If you want to go
you want me to answer it?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay. First of all, I think what we can do is a lot. We can do a lot, but we have to keep in mind that we as an organization are located in the Netherlands. So geographically, we have our limitations, but I think it's two ways. It's first of all, we need to help develop the skills, and we need to find the right tool sets. So we have been experimenting with the proper ways. Is it with conferences? Is it with online courses? And not being on the island, how can you properly provide a course like that with the proper support without the need to be more involved than needed? And how can it be more scalable? But also, how can we motivate the locals to share their knowledge that they have? Because keep in mind, there are quite a few developers on the island, but it's a very, very small community. So how can we motivate and mobilize those developers to start sharing their knowledge, being there already? So that's basically the things we are experimenting in, and we are always open for any collaboration from the island. Any company who is interested in collaborating with us, in either that we give workshops or we give talks, or we think of ways how we can share our knowledge, we are more than welcome to have that partnership and see how we can provide workshops, remote or on the island, preferably on the island. Get us a ticket and we'll come. Like we are really invested in helping the island with the knowledge that they need in the way of working, and the soft skills, the hard skills, the real technical skills with specific challenges they are facing. We want to help thinking of what the most fitting solution is, or how they can help their employees move from a non-tech role to a tech role, which I think there are a lot of possibilities, with a lot of e-learning possibilities that you can, as an employer, can help your employees educate and develop the skills that they need to move into tech.
Exactly.
So basically, that's how we want to help. We want to help actively, we want to help passively, we want to motivate. And if there's any way we can add something where there is a need from the other side, let us know. Let's get in touch.
Well, I hope some companies will reach out to you to get the full potential out of the IT sector on the island, because it's very promising.
Yeah, definitely. And I think in addition to what Dave said, what definitely can help is also sharing their challenges with IT first. So a lot of times, and every company or every organization faces this, right? So many times you have a challenge and you keep it to yourself, and you go years thinking about how to solve this. But in sharing it, there's always somebody who have done it before or have faced it before. And I think as a community, if we find each other more and we're willing and open to share, also putting ourselves a bit vulnerable in the sense, in a positive way, then to get the right support, that can also help us all grow in that sense. Because we can push whatever, but if we, and you'll be like, yeah, I've already heard it, but by understanding the real challenge you have, what is the question behind the question, then also we can think along with you.
All right. Thank you for your elaborate answer.
Yes.
Are
welcome.
there any questions from the attendees still? Well, wait a second. I also encourage everyone to look at the program for the rest of the week. We still have a few days left with interesting speakers coming as well. So make sure you register for that. I don't see any questions coming in. So I guess that concludes the session for today. I would like to thank you both for your time and sharing your insights and attending the EU Desk Curacao Funds Week. And well, we'll keep in touch for sure.
Great. Thank you very much again.
Thank you so much
Very much for having us.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.